I'm Nicole Wodislawski from the International Copper Association. My colleague, Malcolm Burwell, continues his interview with Jack Lifton, founder of Technology Metals Research.
So, Jack, you've seen this kind of thing before. Back in the 80s, we had, with a different magnetic technology, with a samarium cobalt technology, we had a problem of supply with the cobalt at the time, and the industry hiccups there. Is there something that we can learn from the past of living through this before? And it was the car industry, of course, that hiccuped back in the 1980s.
I don't mean to be too cynical, but the answer is probably no, because it's not the same people. And what I've noticed is that everybody makes the same mistakes each generation. It's just different materials, same mistake. So, quite frankly, samarium today, for example, is relatively abundant because there isn't that much demand. Cobalt is still the problem. So it's interesting you say that, because I remember very well when there was the beginning of the introduction of rare earth permanent magnets in the early 80s, like you say, and, there wasn't anything going to happen there. And then, boom, I think we said that 80% of the magnets on a car, I think, are rare earth permanent magnets.
Probably not an analogy there in this particular case. I'm kind of also interested in the volatility that we see in the price. High prices in the automotive industry are always a problem, but back in 2010, we at the Copper Association estimate that the active materials in a 50 kilowatt traction motor were about $250, a permanent magnet motor. And today, those same materials are $730. So we've seen this, and it hasn't been a nice steady rise. It peaked and has come down.
No.
How do you see the industry dealing or not dealing with the volatility?
That was a big problem, quite frankly. And again, that was caused by speculation for the most part, and it was really an internal Chinese thing. I don't think that anyone was thinking this was going to happen, because it was not a matter of supply and demand. That's what we couldn't figure out, and it turned out to be manipulation, so to speak. And the thing is, it's said that this manipulation was by the Chinese conspiratorial the government. It was Chinese cowboy capitalist rare earth speculators. Believe me. The point is, that's what really, in my opinion, set off the automotive industry. They did not like that at all. I know Mitsubishi saw magnets on its electric car go up by $1,000 a unit. That was just incredible.
On top of this volatility, of course, there is a long-term rise in the costs, even when you filter out the volatility from the last 18 months. If I could just toot my own horn for a moment, in the same time that permanent magnet motor costs, the active materials went from $250 a unit to $730. An induction motor, the active materials in there, which are copper and iron, only went from $120 to $150. So big cost advantage there, and yet the industry still has an ongoing and reasonable love affair with the permanent magnet motor. Do you think there's something else happening here that's keeping the permanent magnet motor solidly in everybody's sights in the industry?
I think part of it is the romance of so-called high tech, and they've you should notice by analogy that this entire thing started when one American company informed us that without a domestic supply of rare earths, our military would have to surrender to the Mozambique Boy Scouts. And the fact was, it was silly, really silly. And last week, the U.S. military put out a report where they pointed out they use 167 tons a year of rare earth permanent magnets. And that, as they told me years ago, and then now they reaffirmed, they feel they can always buy that in the marketplace no matter where. Years ago, they asked me not to discuss it because they didn't want the public to think about the fact they were buying it from China. Now they don't seem to care. But all I'm saying is that's a non-issue. It's a non-issue. That we can't live without it. However, the romance in the press has not yet caught up with reality. So it's without rare earths, there'll be no wind power, no this, no that. Of course, all these technologies, the military, I understand, they need the stuff because for them, a milligram or a gram is important. But for most of us, it isn't. And like everything else in this world, it's going to be about price and availability. At the end of the day, if I can't get this stuff, or I have a high risk of not getting it, I'm going to stick with stuff I can get. That is the strength of copper, for example, and it always will be. Because we're never going to produce more than we need of rare earths, for example, because there's no point in stockpiling such a thing. It's reactive. The stockpile would degrade. So you produce it as you need it. At the moment, the Chinese produce it cheaper than everybody else. No businessman is going to buy it at a higher price if he can get it at a lower price. He's willing to pay a little more to ensure he can get it. But right this minute, you can't get it outside of China. You have to literally buy the supply chain and fund it. And that's what people seem to be unwilling to do. So all this is going on. They're still making cars. And I suspect they'll be using copper motors for a long time, as long as they're making cars. I don't know what the outcome is going to be here, but I see this as a cycle. And as you said, it may be, if it's a cycle, it has a beginning and an end. I don't know. I'm not real sanguine about it. How about where?
Right.
This concludes part 3 of Malcolm Burwell's interview with Jack Lifton. The discussion continues on part 4.